Hello, mortals. How are you guys doing? Here comes Alyssa. Hi, Alyssa.
Hey.
Very happy that we are here. And right now we are picking up. If you guys have not listened to our Videcast last week, I encourage you guys to do it because we are going to be picking up this week from where we left off. We're picking up with the Seven Hathors because last week what we did is we talked about the origin of the Goddess Hathor. So today we're going to be speaking more on that topic, which at the last minute evidently grow a little bit. So what we thought was a good, nice, entertaining topic turns into a lot more, which is okay because
think of this. It's not really more of a continuation, but think of this as like a mini episode, kind of like a fun mini episode where you really get to a lot of the times we kind of have to condense, especially because there's just so much information, so much history. We have to condense a lot. So think of this as you kind of getting a taste of what it's like to go down the research rabbit hole with us. Think of this as our little rabbit hole episode.
Yes. Alyssa has done us the courtesy of condensing most of the information. Your brain would probably be fried a little bit, but don't worry. It's all good because we're all here together going through this wrath of fire. But now we're going to focus on this. So, Alyssa, if you would just go ahead and take us in to the Seven Hathor, the, 30 minutes down the rabbit hole with Julie and Alyssa, or however you guys want to put it.
Oh yeah. So guys, we have an hour, but we're going to try, just because this is a special mini episode, we are going to try to condense this. So, wow. I did make a joke at the beginning of our last episode that Egyptian gods just never seem to do what they're supposed to do. Like, their titles are never the end of it. There's always more. And wow, when I say the Seven Hathors really just takes that to a new level, they truly do take that to a new level. While I'm picking at Egypt, though, I'd just like to say, mentioning the Seven Hathors, what is with the Egyptians and seven, man? Like, the obsession with seven, the seven scorpions, the seven goddesses, the Seven Hathors.
Heaven. I think seven is like one of those number where you just stick to it. Like how like America, we have like the number 13 where we never touch. If anything is 13, we skip it. It was like, 13 something, it means it's unlucky. So I think like seven is something that's creative to their culture. It's kind of lingering to their culture, not physically, but definitely a lot of like back and forth dialogues.
Either way, the Seven Hathors. Wow. So we're going to get started by just kind of going over and touching who exactly are the Seven Hathors. So the Seven Hathors are basically associated with fate and fortune. They have a lot to do with astronomy. If you notice in all of our Egyptian stories that we've covered so far, we've had a lot to do with the stars, a lot of the constellations, how they're organized, and even a lot of the goddesses we've done, like Isis and Hathor. They often take their names, and a lot of the jobs that they do often correlate to constellations and stories around and myths around constellations. So that is where the Seven Hathors, that's where we begin with them. So often the seven goddesses are depicted as seven cows, and they each have their own talent. So it was basically thought that the Seven Hathors knew the length of every child's life from the day it was born until the day it was dead. And they basically questioned dead souls as they traveled through the lands of the dead. And this is actually very significant, because if you remember us talking about Hathor, we talked a lot about how Hathor basically, how love kind of reached all places. And that was a little bit, we were kind of reaching there, but I guess they really mean it, because she was there, of course, feeding her divine milk to the pharaohs.
Yeah, that's one of her many, many jobs.
Yep. And then, of course, greeting you even in the afterlife, because she's been looking over you all your life, greeting you in the afterlife with drinks, food. She's just a friendly face. I think it's like a famous TikTok trend now where they do they have Persephone down there, and there's like a 12-year-old that comes to the underworld, and she kind of does a little smile thing to the song Wonderland. Think of Hathor as that person. It's a she's like a friendly face. It's like a friendly face you've seen all your life going through death. It's like, don't be afraid. Here, take some drinks, take some wine, nice food, enjoy yourself.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. She's just that friendly face all around. And I mean, if it does help, when we say that love does reach all extents, it does mean the love of life and death itself. Because um, the people who are the goddess who are named like the Seven Hathors, they do some of the very similar job that was it Hathor does herself. And it does get a little confusing because these seven goddess has nothing related to the actual Hathor goddess herself, but
or so we think.
but for some reason they inherited her name. And I mean, to me it makes sense, because if you're looking at a child's life, like, from the day it was born to its death, they are in charge of all, like, really all of the child, all of the people of Egypt. And so I think it's reasonable to link them to Hathor. Now, does that information change? It might, but for now, let's just look at them as individuals. Well, seven group of individual for a while. And I really think that it's amazing how that they are linked to like constellations. And God correct me, or actually Alyssa correct me if I say this wrong. They are linked it to the Pleiades.
I've heard Pleiades, but I've heard the Pleiades. So I'm going with Pleiades because that's the one I've heard the most, or that's
Pleiades.
That's the one I got when I put it into Google.
Yeah, so. They are linked to the Pleiades constellations, and in ancient Egypt during this time, the star cluster that we know as the Pleiades are known as the celestial herd, and they were an important part of the system of like timekeeping and seasonal marker, because back then people are not that big into clock. They are more like, the sun and stars and the lights and stuff like that.
The sun and the stars was their clock. So think of like things like sundials, think of sailors who guided their way. The Egyptians were very big on astronomy. And like I said, they used astronomy for a lot of more of their daily tasks than you would think. Astronomy was a very big part of calculating time, measurements. It was a very big part of the culture in ancient Egypt.
Yeah, it was really big, because I mean, time is important during these times as well as right now. We always are keeping track of time, and the constellations help keep track of, when is the season's going to come, when is day going to come, when is dawn going to break, what time I need to get somewhere. It's important, and
it's something constant, I feel like, also. And I mean, like, that's the whole reason they even come up. That's the whole reason that people really even have, even a lot of these religions and different mythologies. We talk about this a lot. Why we at Planet Her even have during MBTM talk about mythology, that it was used to explain a world that was ever changing, ever constant, to bring some sense of order. And if you think about it, the stars being as bright as they are, I mean, now we, of course, I'm pretty sure they probably knew too. You'd be surprised what you learn went down in the ancient times. But even now, even with stars can last billions of years. We know that they can, of course, explode and, they reform and whatnot. There's a Big Bang Theory and all of that. But stars are pretty constant, lasting billions of years. They're always there. They're used as navigation. Like I said, it's just a very interesting topic to look at how consistent they are. And that would actually make sense why, people would probably make them that important, or cling to them as much as they cling to their goddesses, or even fuse the two, astronomy and their goddess Hathor, because those are the consistencies. That is what helps us explain things in life.
Yeah, definitely, because these things are so they're just there. They're convenient. Right, in today's world, we'll probably never see stars that much, because the light in the cities are so bright that we can't even see the stars anymore. But I mean, I don't wish this, but if there was maybe like a blackout or something like that, if like a city loses electricity, you will find that the sky is amazingly light without the actual light of like mankind. Like you will see how, you can actually probably even see the Milky Way from where we're standing. And these things were overlapped by just, the progressive of humankind. And it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of what we adapt to. But if we were to go back, I think we would go right back to the same way how, the ancestors did it.
Oh yeah, of course. So that's kind of, that's kind of our spiel on the stars and how important they are. And it's not just Egypt. You can find this across multiple different cultures and people using stars in navigation. And even now, we find ourselves kind of going back to that way of life, studying astronomy, trying to figure out what it meant to people, what it means to us now, using it to count down the days until apparently our very own big yellow star is supposed to
Oh no, please
explode.
no. You guys, if you guys don't know, we actually have a doomsday clock. We do actually, as I don't know where is it at. I don't look too much into this. I don't want to look into it. It's
I
kind
think
of
we can look online for it. Actually,
actually, because I don't want to know, because that's the thing. I know there's a doomsday clock, but I just really don't want to know. If it comes, they just let it come. I don't want to count down the day where we're gonna get out of here. Like, no, that's just something I'm not into. If you guys are into it, you guys can look it up. Like, just look up doomsday clock. I don't know where it is, how it works, and I frankly don't want to know. So if you guys do find out, I don't want to know. Don't inform me.
But Hathor would not agree with you. She was of both life and death. But that is neither here nor there. Do you want to? Because we're on 14, 15, I think now. So do you want to continue with her backstory, kind of explaining this?
Yes, definitely. Just wait. I have to put this in really quick, because you guys will see a lot of this that deals with like the solar system and a lot of like astrology and stuff like that. Because the Seven Hathors are just linked to them, because associated with the goddess Hathor herself, the Hathors, the milk, because they are represented as 7 cows. They are represented as celestial cows as well. So that their milk symbolizes stars in the Milky Way. And as the 7 cows pour their nutritious milk into like the solar system, they represent the 7 stars, the streaming of the light down all the way to the Milky Way. And that is how kind of our solar system kind of formed, because of these cows, of these celestial cows, pouring their milk down the what is it called, the galactic
the galactic, pretty much the galactic tunnel of life.
Yeah,
the galactic tunnel of life is what I'm going to
yeah. So that's why it's like the Milky Way is like the source of life. It's because of the legend of the 7 Hathors. So yeah, that's really how I want to add. So go ahead, Alyssa.
Yeah, definitely. While you're on that, I'll definitely touch on the importance of cows, because I'm pretty sure if you've been following us by now, there's probably someone out there who's listening now and is just like, what is with the Egyptians and milk and cows?
Well,
yeah, I mean, well, it's something that definitely would come up. It came up while I was researching. I was just like, oh my gosh, the cow thing. What is it? What is it with the cows? But if you'll notice, cows give a very important substance we like to know as milk. It is substantial, even to us, to wherever you are located around the world. Milk is substantial at some point, but it is most important because milk feeds babies. And especially in ancient times, especially when living and longevity wasn't as plentiful as it is now, having a big household. And we mentioned this in Isis's story as well. No, we mentioned it in Bastet's story, why people love cats so much, because they were easy to breed. They represented you having a plentiful household. Reproducing was very important. And of course, Hathor being known as the mother of Egypt, another mother of Egypt, who we mentioned, this was very important, having something and knowing that she fed pharaohs her divine milk that gave them basically their divinity. Cows were very important for this. Of course, them being the main producers of milk, it kind of ties them. I love the picture of milk that you just added.
Yeah, milk. It's your life. It's your source of life. Deal with
pretty
it.
much. For the few months that you are a baby, or the year that you are a baby, a small enough baby that you don't have teeth, you can't chew on anything, milk is literally your source of life. And Hathor for them was kind of the tie. Like I said, she's tied between life. She ties life and death together. And she does it through love and looking over all of the children of Egypt. So, of course, and like I said, of course, we also know another infamous goddess, Isis, who if you were with us in our last podcast, we made some very interesting connections there between her and Hathor. If you haven't, we're not going to explain it here because we don't have time. But if you haven't listened, definitely go back and give that a listen. We made some very interesting.
Yes, definitely go listen to our last podcast about Hathor. We make a lot of great points, and it's just, I mean, it's interesting to know these things as well. And yeah, it connects all of our episodes together. If you guys haven't noticed.
Literally, we didn't do this on purpose, guys. The research rabbit hole is crazy.
This rabbit hole is digging itself a deeper hole. We're never getting out. Sorry, guys.
Pretty much. It looks like we're going to be there for a while. But either way, that's my spiel on the importance of cows. Basically, they produce milk. Human life, it kind of starts off of milk as a baby. That is kind of your life source. And Hathor, being the mother of Egypt, also tied with our previous mother of Egypt that we mentioned, Isis, giving life to, repopulating the earth, giving life back to human beings through that. That is kind of where the tie between the cows comes from, and why they are often depicted as females wearing cow horns or wearing the sun disk with the cow horns, or sometimes just straight up cows.
And yeah, definitely. I think we should definitely give them the titles, the name and the titles of these 7 goddess or these 7 stars, because they're quite popular, even though they have like a few abbreviations. So the names that we're giving you right now might not be totally like accurate or the same, because there are a lot of like different versions of it. But these 7 goddesses do not have specific names. Even though they're called the 7 Hathors, they have titles, and these titles are assigned to their constellation, to their stars. So they're not like a specific name. It's more like, for example, we have the Lady of the Universe, or the Lady of Jubilance, right?
Yeah, she's the same lady, the Lady of the Universe. I added this because I found this later. The Lady of the Universe, one of the 7 Hathors is called the Lady of Jubilance. And one of these days I got to figure out how they tied 7 different entities all to one person and just split her into multiple. But that is very interesting.
Maybe because she has too much jobs, responsibility. They got to split it up.
Honestly, I'm almost tempted to ask Ra, what exactly do you do
again? I don't know. Whatever he does, it's not working. So these ladies are taking over.
Honestly, it seems like they basically do. Well, he does hold up the sun. I guess that's something.
Yeah, but I guess it's kind of important.
Yeah, but back to the Lady of the Universe. I actually found out that she actually goes by another name, also called the Lady of Jubilance. And if you guys remember Bastet's episode, oh my gosh, my voice. If you guys remember Bastet's episode, we talked about Sekhmet and her origins, and Sekhmet, because of her bloodlust and how much she was basically because of her bloodlust, she was also called the Lady of Jubilance because of the joy she took in just war and killing and all of that horrible stuff. So it's funny because we were trying to figure out where exactly Sekhmet came from, whether she was just thrown in as kind of what do we call them, Julie? Like our fanfic moments where people just want to add their own spice. But apparently and the Pleiades, like I said, the Pleiades are spread all around the world. I'll talk more on that later. But the Pleiades or the 7 Hathors are spread all around the world. They're very concrete. They go back millions of years. So the Sekhmet story that we thought was just thrown in might have actually been part of Hathor's might have been where Hathor originated from. Love coming from hate, because she's also called the Lady of Jubilance, and that is actually Sekhmet's epithet. So
yeah, probably. So we have the Lady of the Universe, or the Lady of Jubilance. We have another lady that's called the Sky Storm. And then another one. These are assigned to their constellation, by the way. It is not by chance. It's literally maybe by the positions or how their constellation appears, their stars appear. So we have the Sky Storm, the hidden one presiding over her place. You from Chemist. Oh, no, God. Is it Chemist? I'm so sorry if I mispronounce this, but I think it's called Chemist. You from Chemist. Red hair. Bright red, the name prevails over the West. These are the seven stars that are from the constellation of the Seven Hathors.
Yeah, they all have very interesting names.
Yeah.
That's pretty much our Seven Hathors, and you can find a lot of these names and titles in either the Book of the Dead, the Tomb of Nefertiti, in the 19th dynasty. Those are very interesting places to look, and I'm
Yes.
very shocked that I'm not even shocked that that's where they'd be found, because like we said, the link between life and death. So it only makes sense that of course you'd probably find it in a tomb or maybe the Book of the Dead. Seems to be a lot more death going on than life here, but
Yeah,
hey.
definitely. I mean, it's really no secret that the Egyptians were very big on the concept of the underworld, and like you said, these things can be found in like the Book of the Dead, like the book when you're going to the underworld. If you guys don't know what the Book of the Dead is, it is basically a book, a scroll, or might I say a papyrus of questions. Basically, what it has like all the questions that you would need to answer going into the afterlife. Someone is going to be at the gate of hell questioning you these various hundreds and something of questions, and if you get one of them wrong, you're not going into the afterlife. Basically, that's what the Book of the Dead is. And on tombs, of course, we know about hieroglyphics and all of these elaborate tombs that pharaohs or queens and kings of the ancient Egyptian world get buried in. And these tombs takes their whole entire life to be prepared. They literally have to construct their tomb on the day where they sit on the throne, on their coronation day, so that they make sure they can have it by the time they're dead. It takes a whole freaking lifetime to construct a tomb.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I guess that's where the life comes in, but
Yeah.
it kind of gives me like I don't know, it gives me the vibe of spending your life preparing for death, and I'm just
Basically,
like, I don't know how that sits with me.
well, it's not really preparing for death. It's preparing for like the afterlife, because once you reach the afterlife, you're like freed. You're like celestial kind of. You're not really in the underworld, but you're passing through. You've beaten death basically. You've passed through death and you have gone to a place where you get to inherit all of the good doings of the world, all of the paradise treating of this world, because you already passed through the worst. You mean like living on the earth and dead
Your
part.
reward for going through hard life, hard labor in the desert, I guess.
Basically. Okay. 5 minutes is here. Alyssa, go ahead. Fry our brains. We're
Oh
going down the
yes.
rabbit hole.
It is now time for 5 minutes down the rabbit hole with me, Alyssa. I am going to absolutely blow your minds, fry your brains. So, the Seven Hathors, and we're going to try to make this quick. Let's see if we can get through it all. So much about the Seven Hathors. So now you know who they are, where they came from. The Seven Hathors, the seven entities that basically made up the universe. But you don't know how much of the universe they made up. Oh my goodness. So they were worshipped in a wide variety of cities, from Waset, also called Thebes, to Unu, Hippopolis, a ton of places, Sinai, Memphis, everywhere. So basically, our journey down the rabbit hole starts with the Napoleons and a bunch of French explorers that I kind of heard about through the grapevine and kind of researched over, who basically found Dendera. If you were listening last podcast, you remember that Dendera was one of the last remaining temples of Hathor, especially in a time where feminism was kind of dying. And you kind of get the fact that from what we've told you, that Egypt was very, very big on feminism. But eventually around this time, it was starting to die in lieu of the more masculine worship. And so they tore down a lot of the temples. That's what I found out was happening, especially with conquerors. So it was very, very amazing that Dendera was even still left standing. And they found a lot of hidden secrets, a lot of hidden, basically just really cool attributes of Dendera as a temple of Hathor. So basically, the Greeks were very big, and we already know that the Greeks were very intertwined with Egypt. They used this group of stars, and they called them the Seven Sisters, also the Pleiades. They didn't really call them the Seven Hathors, but they acknowledged it. So, of course, each star is representing a Grecian deity in their eyes. But at one point, they actually thought that Egypt, because of the Dendera and the temple that existed there, and the zodiacs that were present, they thought that Egypt might have been Atlantis, because the temple of Dendera and the zodiacs present in there alluded to a time long before even the times that were already documented as in Egypt. They basically thought that this was a time machine, basically dating times that were even off the record, off history, that were never even heard of, that were put there to preserve it. The wall that she sent previously actually is what they were looking at. It got really insane, and the research got really insane, guys. So basically, they basically thought that Egypt itself was once Atlantis, and that is kind of like a cursed word in researchers' notes. Like if you mention Atlantis, it's a really crazy rabbit hole, especially when you involve Plato. I recommend you guys definitely check out the origins. But the myths of the seven goddesses can be seen all over they can be seen originated all over the world. Seven Hathors is not just in Egypt. People knew her from a wide range of places. In fact, there was even an author called Amin who wrote Dendera, the land of the goddess Hathor. And he basically talks about how Hathor herself originated from Enki and Sam, which were Sumerian gods who commissioned the Pleiades, or even sometimes it's the priestess, to create 42 different goddesses that spread across the universe. And in this universe, there were 7 of them that got sent to this universe, also known as the Pleiades or the Seven Hathors. So that is kind of where their birth originates. So she is it's said that there are multiple different dimensions or universes where she could or could not exist. And actually her temple Dendera was supposed to be kind of like a pathway or some kind of portal or way of communication to reach out to those places, which, to their credit, it sounds really crazy. And it kind of sounds, I heard Atlantis, guys, and I was kind of falling off a little bit.
Time travel. We're talking about time travel now.
Yeah, so we went from Atlantis, which is already a word that if you're bringing it up, it's basically like, what is that one? It's basically like the road to El Dorado. You bring up the city of gold and we're all just like, nah, okay, we're done listening. But actually they found, like I said, they found a lot of interesting things, like the sistrum, which, if you remember our episode about bastet, she was sekhmet and bastet were really big on the sistrum instrument. And so they started looking more into that. And basically it goes into a lot of different angles. We started looking at electromagnetic waves that we were detecting there, different sounds and wavelengths, and basically just trying to figure out the significance of all of that. And guys, when I tell you the stuff they found in there is crazy, like you should definitely look into this. They basically found that there was something kind of otherworldly that was kind of going on there. And I'm pretty sure some of you guys who have heard the crazy headcanons, don't look at me like that. I know what you're thinking, but they basically found out that there was some kind of sound and frequencies that were being made that were just impossible and just really, they were insane, that were being made in the temple of Dendera, and that it was made and constructed specifically for that purpose, to carry those frequencies somewhere that we just can't figure out where it is. There was even said to be some kind of machine that was present in there, some kind of modern technology that was used to communicate with something otherworldly, like the Seven Hathors that were spread across different dimensions and universes. On top of this, on top of the sistrum, the significance of the sistrum instrument, its connection to sekhmet, all of these machines that are said, and them thinking that this is basically Atlantis. They also looked at different civilizations around the world, from Homer's Iliad to the Bible to even the Aborigines in Australia, saying that they originated from the Pleiades. So basically, Hathor was more than just the mother. She's basically, I said, wow, she's basically Mother Earth. But apparently, scratch that, she's mother of the universe. And that was really crazy. Mother of technology, sound, healing. There was so much that she went into. And this is my last headcanon before I go, but they also looked into these 12 notes when they were looking into different frequencies that were made in the temple, and how that could have been used as communication and the tie with machinery. They also pointed out 12 notes of music that the frequencies were kind of tied to. and its relation to the 7 goddesses, basically, and the 12. And it's really interesting that they brought that up, considering Hathor was also the goddess of music. I also looked up something similar to ancient Greece. It's where Egypt and Greece kind of tie together. And I figured out that in the origin story of the Pleiades, from the Grecian standpoint, between Atlas and another, Pleios, I think her name was, she was a goddess. When they had their children, I looked at some of the derivatives from the names, and the names actually go back to the word plane, or to sail, or the sailing queens, which is weird because the 7 Hathors are originating and basically kind of they're basically taking place in space. We're all about the constellations, the astronomy, and the skies. But if you remember, in my last pop culture hour, in our last podcast, the skies and basically everything included in that, included in space, was also known. And if you are a Christian, or if you've looked at Christian stories, you know this. There is said to be something called a firmament, which the Egyptians also depict in a lot of their hieroglyphics as a firmament, which is basically the waters that separate the earth and the sky, basically trying to symbolize space. And so that was kind of also a fun little connection that I saw, that kind of tied biblical with Egyptian mythology, with Grecian mythology. I found that very interesting that existed there, that they mentioned water, and that the name originated from water, and to see that kind of translated to basically the sky and space. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. There was so much more, and I tried so hard to condense this. I even went over my 5 minutes, but this has been 5 minutes down the rabbit hole with me. I hope I have blown your minds today. Please pick up the pieces. We don't need them scattered all over the podcast. Thank you.
You're telling the people whose brain you just exploded to gather their brain cells together and not planted all over the freaking phone screen.
Well, we're going to need it for next week when we go into even more Egyptian craziness.
Oh, yeah, we are, guys. But, save it for next week. You did go over your 5 minutes mark. You just blow our mind in 10 minutes, by the way. And yes, I agree that the Greek and the Egyptians did have a certain tie together when it goes down to constellation, which I think the rest of the world can agree with you, because it's all about interpretations. And almost every country around the world have their own interpretations of how things should be, of how this is happening, of how this has come to be the origin of whatever. And so the Greek have their own ways of doing it. And actually, the Greek actually call this constellation what we know as the 7 Hathors. In Egypt, they call it the 7 sisters in Greek. And that they're also, each star in that constellation is also represented by a Grecian deities. But we're not going to go too deep into that because Alyssa already blown everyone's mind. So, great 30 minutes, or 35, 36 minutes now. We did it. We finally did it, even though there was a little bit of brain explosions, but you guys will be fine. No insurance on our end, okay? So medical bill is on you. So we are going to see you guys here again next week. We're going to be finalizing the Egyptian chapter in our Mistresses Behind the Myth series. And next week will be our last episode residing in Egypt. It's not our finale yet. Our finale will be after that, but we'll take it one step at a time. So any last word, Alyssa, or do you still have any words left to throw out before we leave?
Girl, I always have some words to throw out, but
of course you do.
In this case, I'll do them a service and let them go and marinate on that. And guys, if you find anything interesting, we love to hear from you. Definitely send over anything you find. If you find something interesting, if you find a different myth, if you find something that maybe contradicts what we have to say, that would be great. Share it with us. Like I said, I would love to hear some of you guys' suggestions. If you have any myths you'd like to hear, share that with us as well.
Good luck, mortals. I hope you guys have all your brain cells. Wipe it off the screen. Don't worry. Water will make it come off. No need for bleach. And we'll see you then. Goodbye, mortals.
Bye, mortals.